Okay, so I am back for more reactions, and today we're going to be starting with the day anime died. I mean, anime is still here. I don't get it why it says the day anime died, but we gotta go with it anyway. So let's get on with it.
I still hate the idea, but fine, let's end it!
What you are looking at right now was obviously not drawn by a human being. It is an awkward, amateurish AI representation from previous years.
Yo, that looks garbage, bro. That looks garbage.
Over time they got better, but were still awkward enough to be funny. They even served as inspiration for countless artists across the web to show AI how it was really done. However, now in early 2026, that laughter has subsided, and what remains is a deep sense that the future is looking extremely bleak for traditional animation. There was a time when AI Will Smith eating spaghetti was shorthand for how far AI video had to go before it could resemble reality. That gap is now vanishingly small. Major corporations like Coca-Cola have already experimented with fully AI-generated advertising. For the longest time, traditional hand-drawn 2D frame-by-frame animation, the craft that defined so many of our childhoods, had remained uniquely challenging for AI models to faithfully replicate. However, this latest barrage of viral content comes from a new AI model called Seedance 2.0, signaling that we are now in an age where AI animation could conceivably go undetected to the untrained eye. So, what are the implications of this? Well, the core concern isn't simply how well these systems replicate authentic animation, but rather what they have chosen to animate. Many of the viral demonstrations feature characters from One Piece, Dragon Ball, and Doraemon. These are characters tied to franchises worth billions of dollars, built through decades of human artistic labor, now being replicated by machines in seconds. And as a longtime Dragon Ball fan, the demonstrations revealed something to me that was important. At first glance, the viral clip looks convincing. It feels like it could be pulled from a real production. However, familiarity with the source material exposes how the illusion works. The water effects are directly ripped from the Goku vs Vegeta fight in Dragon Ball Super Broly. They're exactly the same. For Doraemon, the colors featured are the aged incorrect colors from botched releases, pointing directly to the source these models are drawing from. In others, the character renderings reflect stylistic elements from Dragon Ball Daima and Broly. The system is not inventing animation that resembles Dragon Ball, it is dissecting real scenes created by real animators and reassembling them into something that gives the impression of something new. The output, as it stands, is still imperfect. Visual artifacts still remain, movement occasionally feels unnatural, and the frame rates betray a noticeable artificial smoothness, signaling a lack of human timing. But it doesn't need to fool everyone. It just needs to convince most people. Now, before getting into what this could mean, I should mention that replies under this latest batch of AI animations are flooded with sentiments like, "I don't care that it's AI, it looks better than early Dragon Ball Super." That frustration is based on something real. Early Dragon Ball Super's production dealt with crushing deadlines, strained resources, and a schedule that did not allow animators the time they needed. The result was a stretch of episodes infamous for inconsistent art and stilted animation. So when people see AI producing something more polished than what a broken production pipeline could deliver, they think that's the better outcome. But if the outcome becomes completely detached from the conditions that produced it, if visual spectacle becomes the sole metric, then the cheapest system capable of generating passable results will always seem preferable from that perspective. We've seen throughout history that companies will always respond logically to financial incentives, routinely getting away with murder because of how most people are. When ethics conflict with price and convenience, it's the accessibility and affordability that wins out. Governance almost always lags behind this. When cars first appeared, there were no speed limits, no traffic lights, no crosswalks, and pedestrian deaths spiked enormously as as a result. It took decades for regulation to catch up, and we are seeing this with AI right now. The tools are here and improving rapidly, and the regulatory infrastructure needed to manage their impact on creative labor is nowhere close to keeping pace. That automobile comparison, by the way, is worth challenging on its own terms. The transition unfolded over decades, and the car industry itself created large numbers of new jobs that absorbed displaced labor. AI threatens rapid displacement of skilled workers across not just one industry, but countless in fields that do not have obvious alternative employment pathways. And there are no past analogs that meet the scale of what it is that I'm describing here. Now, supporters of AI often describe it as a tool that will free artists to focus on storytelling and vision. But a company like Toei Animation owns decades of Dragon Ball, One Piece, Sailor Moon, and countless other properties. They could legally train internal AI models, use their entire catalog, training it on every episode, film, and frame at their disposal.
I mean, that looks so well done.
What makes this particularly uncomfortable is that I can literally recognize the art styles of specific animation supervisors in these AI clips. Animators like Yuya Takahashi have spent their lives perfecting a very distinct visual identity within Dragon Ball. The same goes for veteran animators like Tadayoshi Yamamuro and so many others. These aren't anonymous cogs in a machine, they are artists with recognizable signatures built across a long career of consciously trying to improve. This is where the SAG-AFTRA precedent matters, I think. When the Actors Union went on strike, a central issue was consent and fair compensation. An actor starring in a studio film shouldn't have their face and voice used however someone else might like. And I think animation shouldn't be any different. If a model is replicating the distinct visual language of a specific artist, someone whose style is as recognizable as a voice or a face, why shouldn't they be compensated too? Why shouldn't their consent be required? The precedent set by SAG-AFTRA shows that collective action can force these conversations to happen, and that is one of the most concrete paths forward, I think. But what are the consequences of all this? Well, the anime industry in Japan is already known for long hours, relentless deadlines, and extremely low pay. In between, animators have reported earning only a few $100s per month. This is all to say that AI is not entering a stable or ethical system, but rather arriving into one already under immense strain and compromise. Studios could introduce AI gradually, starting with dialogue scenes and limited movement, which might seem like a harmless and reasonable use case to some people. But these limited scenes serve as critical training grounds for new artists. Entry-level animators build their technical proficiency through in-between animation cleanup work and simple cuts like those. If automation removes the lowest rungs of that ladder and shrink the number of people required, new artists lose their entryway. Future innovators lose the opportunity to develop mastery through experience. Now, a common retort to this is that humans do the same thing, mixing and matching influences to produce new things. But the people who stand out within the industry are the ones who set trends. The history of animation is defined by artists who broke the rules. From new ways of depicting debris as cubes to the innovation of Wakame shadows to Yoshinori Kaneda breaking conventionally fluid timing into snappy, rigid poses. These innovations came from human brains feeding their way through the process, not optimizing towards a known desired output. AI converges on what is statistically correct. It is constrained by what it has been fed, and artists could instruct AI to execute their vision, but would that vision truly be new? Or would it be a compromise filtered through the boundaries of what that model already knows? The greatest art often comes from struggling with the medium, making mistakes, and breaking the rules to innovate. Through that process, artists discover things they never could have imagined entirely by accident. If AI becomes the dominant production method, the medium doesn't just risk losing jobs, it risks losing the capacity to evolve. A tool that can only recombine what already exists cannot originate what doesn't. So where do we go from here? The answer may exist in quietly insisting that these developments are neither inevitable nor neutral, but are instead a future left in the hands of those with the power to make deliberate choices. Companies that decide whether human artistic labor is worth preserving. Workers who organize, as SAG-AFTRA did, to demand consent and compensation when their creative output is used to train systems designed to replace them. Audiences who choose to care about how the things they love are made,
I have never
not
heard
just
of this
how
company.
they look in the end. For anyone who values animation and the people who dedicate their lives to creating it, this moment deserves more than casual observation or novel interest. We need to speak louder. Now.
Oh, I think that is it.